Chama. What's up, everyone? I'm Bo from Brutal Commentary, and today I'm going to be doing our post-fight breakdown and reaction to UFC 320. Overall, I give this card a 8 out of 10. Early prelims were alright, nothing too exciting, but once we started getting to the prelims, I'd say that's when the card's excitement and entertainment value started to go up, especially when we went to Daniel Santos versus Ju Sang Yu. But boy, that main card was amazing. The four finishes on the main card were spectacular. The one decision was a pretty fun fight, all things considered. Quite possibly fight of the year on that card. Definitely round of the year with Rountree versus Jiri round 3. Quite possibly KO of the year. Just such a spectacular card. And then one of the best redemption stories I've seen in MMA. But without further ado, let's get down into the breakdown. Cute little rhyme. First up, Veronica Hardy defeated Morgan Walker via unanimous decision. It was the clean 30-27, absolutely. It was just more so a case of Hardy seemed like the much better fighter, especially on the feet. She was just much quicker, had better footwork, and overall could basically move any which way she wanted without Morgan Walker being able to trap her along the fence or cut her off in any way, shape, or form. Just clearly much slower, least athletic fighter. That being said, she was the bigger and stronger of the two, and she was able to muscle down Hardy by the end of the first round, but she got armbarred. And you'd think maybe with a little more time would have ended via armbar. Second round, after in the 30-second mark, and then about a minute and a half in round 3, she got the takedown. Actually got her Hardy's back, but too little, too late. I think Morgan Walker is getting the pink slip of him, being honest. Just because 3 fight skid, winless in the UFC. Her last fight was over 2 years. Nothing of significance will happen if Morgan Walker is cut from the UFC. I'm sorry, that's just the truth. For Veronica Hardy, however, puts her back in the win column. And I think a fight with Gabriela Fernandez makes the most sense. Both women are very good strikers. Both have pretty good offensive jiu-jitsu. Depends on the situation, of course. But pretty good grapplers in their own right. I'd say Fernandez is probably the bigger fighter of the two. But I would definitely watch that. I would definitely be interested in that fight. So I think, yeah, Gabriela Fernandez versus Veronica Hardy. As for Morgan Walker, regional MMA. Moving up on the card. Ramiz Brahimaj submitted Austin Vanderford via guillotine choke in round 2. So it was actually the 10-fingered modified guillotine, where you kind of clasp your hands like this over someone's neck and just press up, instead of, say, their heads to the side and you just wrap the arm around the neck. I gotta say, man, Brahimaj seemed to have turned a corner as of late. After this, then there's 2 more wins added to his 3-fight win streak, where he knocks out Mickey Gall and submits Billy Ray Goff. And now a second round submission of a former Bellator title challenger. And someone in Austin Vanderford who's, I'd say, still pretty good. I mean, you saw in the first fight, he was out wrestling Brian Moss for the first round. I couldn't seem to do much, as Brian Moss was able to stay in the seated position by the base of the fence. So only Vanderford, and no matter how hard Vanderford tried to at least scoop him up and pull him away from the bench, just didn't really bring much results. But in the second round, man, Brian Moss hurt Vanderford bad with a head kick. You could hear it too. It's no, I don't think you could get a better connection with a head kick than what Brian Moss did. But Vanderford ate it, tried to wrestle. Well, and it was pretty good. Some good scrambles, like when Brian Moss used the Kimura grip to break a body lock and try and spin, but then Vanderford just rolls with him and recaptures the tight waist. All in all, great performance by Brian Moss. And with a win like this and a 3rd finish in a row, you would definitely think a higher ranked opponent is next. Now, I'm not sure exactly where to go, just because welterweight division is absolutely stacked. But I do think a fight with Nicholas Dalby would be a next good step up for Brahimaj. I mean, Nicholas Dalby's very tough to get out of there. I know he's coming off a bad knockout to Randy Brown, but It's a really nice test for Brahimaz. And I definitely like to see what he does with the cardio of Dalby, because Dalby keeps coming forward no matter what. It'll be interesting to see how Brahimaz deals with that. But still, great win. Moving up on the card, Farid Basharat defeats Chris Gutierrez via unanimous decision 29-28. So, for the first 2 rounds, kind of what I thought in my prediction video, Farid Basharat was just the better fighter in just about all aspects. In the wrestling, he was actually able to lift Gutierrez off his feet, which I was very impressed by, and maintain top pressure through the almost all of the first round. And then in the second round, where it was mostly contested in the striking, Farid was beating Gutierrez even in medium range or kicking range, where that's where Gutierrez does his best work. It didn't matter. But especially in, I want to say around the middle of round 2, you saw Basharat throw one, then kind of come in with the cross and just hit Gutierrez clean on chin. Gutierrez is still tough. He hung in there, but yeah, honestly, he was just waiting too long. And it's like I said, when he deals with adversity, he seems to just be stuck in place and doesn't really throw much more besides some leg kicks. And even then, those were getting stalled out. And he was trying to go for a spinning back fist multiple times, just never bore any success. It was to the point where his coaches, who I 100% agree with, Nick Montoya or like Factory MMA, they were telling him, you have to go forward. You have to stop conceding pressure. We need a finish. You're going to lose the fight either way. And you saw Gutierrez come out more aggressive round 3 and actually have a lot of success. He hurt Basharat. Now, granted, also Basharat seemed to start to wade during round 3. So that is probably some concerns as he moves forward. How well will the gas tank hold up? But he did it, but he still was enough to play safe. He was able to get back up, had some takedown moments, and still win more or less on the feet. But Gutierrez had the more significant impacts of the round, so he won the third. Still, this is a good win for Basharat. It is the biggest, or I wouldn't say the biggest win of his career, especially the best opponent he's faced in the UFC so far. I'm not sure if he gets a shot at the rankings yet. He's undefeated, now 14-0. But he's not the most exciting undefeated fighter. And there are definitely other fighters around the same spot in the rankings. And by that I mean the unranked, but like their top 20 or 25, who are close to Basharat, who might be able to fight for a ranking position too. So it's a little interesting to see where they're going to go. At best, if he does get a shot at the rankings, I say give him Kyler Phillips. That'd be a very interesting fight. But we shall see. Nonetheless, I'm sure he's going to get a bigger name than Chris Gutierrez now. Moving up on the card. Yana Santos defeated Macy Chasson via unanimous decision, another 29-28. Boy, I don't know if it's just me, but I think this was the most focused I've ever seen Yana Santos. From everything from her execution, to her composure, to her offense, and the offensive timing. All of it was much better than I had ever seen. Now, I know she was riding a 2-fight win streak coming into this fight, but I definitely still think Macy Chasson, even now in the loss, is still a better fighter than washed Miesha Tate and Chelsea Chandler, who isn't good. But still, Santos was very aggressive. Every time they clinch, Santos was constantly throwing knees to the body and just overall being a much better dog in the clinch. And every time Chaston tried to fight from range and conceded ground, that's when Santos was at her best. Either just throwing punches, crashing into Chaston to create contact and thus throw even more knees in the clinch. Even by the end of, I think it was the first round, Santos threw a slashing elbow and landed just right on the nose of Chasson. You could see it, like, Ainsley became red and kind of swollen. Second round, though, you could see Chasson is starting to make good adjustments. She starts crashing in with Santos and fighting back in the clinch. Even at one point, was going pretty hard for a takedown, but Santos had just such a great wizard being able to keep Chasson from advancing position and or like just going over her back to take it. And eventually, by the end of the second round, she's able to even land a front kick to the face. Then third round was easily Chaston's round. She tried to go for the finish for sure, just going after Santos. You can see Santos started to get tired, and maybe when Chaston did miss weight for his fight, so maybe that also helped. But eventually, she's able to get Santos down and is doing everything she can to finish the fight, going for ground and pound. Eventually gets a rear naked choke, but she just doesn't have the proper grip. She has like the arm over the neck, but the grip is connected by Santos's arm, so she's able to just give herself enough space to breathe. Eventually, Chaston just gives up and starts going back to the ground and pound, and did fuck up. I think it was the left eye of Santos. But again, too little, too late, and you can see Chaston going. I won the fight. Pretty excited. I know some people will give her flack, and fair enough. But sometimes there's a saying, it's not how it starts, it's how it ends. And if you finish a fight like that, you're obviously going to be excited and like just think for a second, maybe I won, maybe I could get the decision. Because round 2 was closer than round 1. But I agree, it was Yana Santos' win all day. This is interesting now because she's in the top 5 of the UFC's bantamweight division. And she is a former title challenger, years ago when she fought Chris Cyborg. But I don't know who exactly they give her. They could give her Eileen Perez. That's an option. Also, it's about time Perez fought again. I think it's been since UFC 311. So that. As for Chaston, I'm not sure where they could give her at this point. Maybe Jocelyn Edwards. That'd be an interesting clash of strikers and some of the taller and rangier women at 135. So, though, impressive win by Santos, I think. Moving up on the card. Poliere Soriano defeats Nikolai Vernatenikov via unanimous decision. Boy, this fight sucked. It really sucked. I'm not an entertaining fight. I knew Soriano had an option to wrestle. He's very strong. He's got explosive takedowns. But I thought he would just kind of knock Vernatenikov's head off. He's got the knockout power. Instead, they just kind of trade on the feet for a little bit, but then Soriano just starts wrestle fucking him. Going for singles, then transition double. He'd constantly get his arms, lock them together, go under the butt, and start lifting up Vernatenikov. And every time Vernatenikov did the exact same thing. Wrap his arm in a guillotine choke. But it always failed. Either Soriano just gritted out, or he transitioned to side control. I know he was like hunting for a Von Flute choke in the second round as well. But you think Vernatenikov, after how many times it failed in round 1, how many times it failed in round 2, with round 1 being the worst of the two because he's getting just ground and pounded on. Now, granted, they are not the biggest shots, and it's clear he looks fine. But he's got him fucking woohoo. He's just constantly getting hit. While Soriano's knee is pinning one of his arms, and another arm is grabbing Vernatenikov, so he's basically just getting ground and pounded on. I understand that Soriano's stronger than him, and certainly has the, I would say, higher horsepower. But man, Vernatenikov wasn't even going for like the underhooks or over-unders, nothing to try and get up. He was stuck on his back every time they wrestled. The only time they didn't was when Soriano kind of just started wrestling from his knees and he can't get the proper leverage. So Vernatenikov just kind of flattened him out, took his back, nearly got the rear naked choke. And I'm thinking, oh my god, negative fight IQ from both of these guys now. But eventually, third round, Soriano did exactly what he was doing the last 2 rounds, wrestled again, and Vernatenikov went for the motherfucking guillotine for the umpteenth time. I think he's getting cut. He's not the UFC level. In 4 fights, he only has 1 win, split decision over Francisco Prado, who he himself is not very good. And you could argue Nikolai Vernatenikov lost the fight. So I think he's going back to regional MMA. Soriano, though, I'm just so shocked. This was his game plan for most of the fight. I figured he would strike a bit more. Now, if him wrestling to mix it up, that's fine. I get that. But just to completely go for only wrestling is a bit of a shock to me. So, though, a win's a win, and he's now 3-0 in his new weight class, so they're going to give him somebody. Maybe Andreas Gustafsson, just see if Gustafsson can get back on the winning track. Or hell, even beat the guy Gustafsson, beat Chaos Williams, because I think Soriano versus Chaos Williams be an interesting fight. Both guys can wrestle somewhat, and strong as oxes, and got some crazy one-punch KO power. Who knows, Soriano might just wrestle him too, but I'd like to see two power punchers like that at welterweight go at it. So, next up, moving up on the card, Edmund Shabazian TKOs Andre Muniz with 2 seconds left of round 1. Honestly, it really has seemed like Shabazian has finally turned over a new leaf and gained back some of that hype he did when he was undefeated and just rising up the ranks in the middleweight division. Because this is some of the best I've ever seen him. Now, credit to Muniz, he was trying to win, and he had his moments on the feet as well. Some good kicks to the body and leg. Some actually pretty good straight punches that did catch Shabazian. But Shabazian just has better footwork, more power. It's clearly strong. Actually, I take that back. Muniz was seemingly the stronger fighter, but Shabazian was just the better striker, had better footwork, overall speed, and had improved takedown defense. Muniz, the one time he was able to get to the ground, he couldn't get much going with it. Shabazian did immediately just start fighting grips and building height, and was eventually just back up on his feet, no problem. Now, towards the end, about 14 seconds left in the round, they both kind of are in the clinch, and this is after Shabazian is up from the takedown, from getting taken down by Muniz. They both separate, they both throw hooks, but Muniz lands first, Shabazian kind of blocks it, then you can see he throws this check left hook that catches Muniz right on the temple. And it doesn't look like there's much power to it. You don't hear much of it. And I know, like, you can't hear every strike, but there are some strikes that you know that sound like a bat hitting you or a whip crack. Just something, like, you can hear the contact, but nothing. It's just very small. There's not much motion to it, but it hits Muniz right on the temple. Now, granted, Muniz has always had bad body language, and when he's hurt, he doesn't hide it very well. But eventually, Shabazian is just on him like white on rice. And starts hammering away with elbows. Eventually, I think it was Mark Smith who reffed this fight, or Herb Dean. My memory's a little fuzzy on that aspect, but I think it was Mark Smith ended the fight, and Shabazian wins with 2 seconds left. Impressive win by Shabazian. This is now his 3rd fight in a row. And it's been a while since we've been on this kind of win streak. Usually, it's like coming off 1 win or at best 2 wins during that skid after Brunson lost. But this is a nice win streak now for him. I'm not saying give him another shot at the rankings yet. Middleweight is pretty stacked at the moment. But this was a good step up. As for who he's going to fight next, that is a bit tricky. Maybe Cam Roston, who just got a good win off Armin Petrosian and, use MMA math, if you will, beat him better than Shabazian beat Prochazka, is what it seems. So that'd be an interesting fight, too. Plus, lanky striker versus somewhat well-built Shabazian. I'd be interested in that fight. Moving up on the card, Jacob Vishlak, I believe is how they were pronouncing it, defeats Patchy Mix via split decision to 29-28 for Vishlak, 129-28 for Mix. Really, I think it came down to how you scored the second round, because I gave the first round to Vishlak, and I gave the third round to Mix. So I guess going over round by round, Mix once again showed he's so stiff as a board when he's striking. He doesn't move his head at all. And I give credit to Vishlak. I said these two are very similar, and it is but they're kind of different how they can look a little clumsy on the feet. Because Vishlak at least has movement to him and does strike while moving, but he can be kind of sloppy with his technique, while Mix is more rigid and kind of just stagnant. So he doesn't have any good defensive head movement. And it's there to be hit. You saw it by the end of this fight. It was his right eye was was swollen like a balloon, or the eyebrow was at least. But Vishlak had much better body kicks. Actually, his overall attacking of the body was much better in this fight, going for punches, quick kicks, and overall just seemed to have more weapons and was pretty confident on the feet. Is what it looked like. He had confidence in his striking more than it looked like with Mix. Now, Mix, throughout the course of the fight, landed better strikes as the fight went on. He landed some good elbows off the break and pretty good punches as well as calf kicks, but I thought Vishlak was doing better on the feet. In the grappling, I was very impressed by Viklak, because Mix is a really good MMA grappler, and you saw at times he was having better dominant position and was kind of getting all of his takedowns at will. That being said, Viklak has a very good guillotine. Different with him is he's fine with not securing it, because he can also use it to get butterfly hooks onto Mix and then sweep to get the full mount. He's done that throughout his entire MMA career. He's very good at using the guillotine to transition over to mount and either get the mounted guillotine or just break the submission, just stay on mount. He's very good at that. And he's very good at immediately fighting for butterfly hooks. His gas tank overall is pretty impressive, Vishlak. He did, even though its Mix ended the fight on top, I felt like Vishlak could probably go another round more so than Mix. But man, when Mix made his debut against Mario Batista back at UFC 316, the lead up to the fight, I remember I rewatched Mix's run through the Bellator Grand Prix just to get a proper idea of what his skill set is. That is not the fighter who we are seeing. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he has lingering injuries. This big of a stage is just getting to him. I don't know what it is, but this is not the Patchy Mix who submitted like Magomedov or Sergio Pettis or knocked out Rufus Strauss. Not the same guy. Not at all. He's just so slow. Now his striking has never been the best, but even then it looked much better than what we're seeing now. So they might give Mix one more chance, and if he loses, they'll cut him, but I don't even know who to give him at this point, see if he's still ready. I could think maybe John Matsumoto. It'd be a good test for Matsumoto to take on a world champion. And it'd be a good chance for Mix, because in theory, like if it were Mix and Bellator, he should beat someone like John Matsumoto, a rising talent for sure, but still has plenty of room to grow. I don't know. I don't know what they do. I don't know who they exactly give him, but I'm just bringing name off the top of my head. Maybe Miles Johns. I'm not sure, but this is definitely terrible for Patchy Mix, and feels like a failed experiment is what it is. Such a shame. For Vishlak, good win and good showing for the Polish champion. Or I guess I should just say KSW to make it easier. But still a good win from him, especially after Robert Rucella lost in Paris. Is a good showing for KSW to have one of their champions, especially one pretty fun like Vishlak, get a win. I don't know where they give him, but I am genuinely excited to see how his career unfolds, because he's got very fun grappling, and seeing him against other fellow grapplers will definitely be a treat to watch. Not sure who they give him, though. But there are plenty of names. The bantamweight division is absolutely stacked. Maybe Damon Jackson will be a really good one. That'd be a very fun fight. Or the loser of Charles Jourdain and Davey Grant. I could see either one of those for Vishlak and be pretty entertaining. Move up on the card. Ju Sang Yu versus Daniel Santos. Santos defeats Ju Sang Yu via knockout in the beginning of round 2. This is one of the 2 underdogs I have on this card. It was him and Pereira. And in the first round, it was Ju Sang Yu was looking so entertaining. He had great striking. Calf kicks were working very well. He had a piston-like jab. His hands were down the entire time, but he had like a great piston jab from the hip. And you could see it was making Santos give a face every single time. He was displaying some good head movement. Leans a bit too much, though. Literally arms still down. And I know not everyone likes the showboating. times when like you see a fighter just perform on another level and they're showboating, I find it enjoyable. Like I get it, not every time. Like if you're losing badly in showboating, yeah, that's annoying as fuck. But when you're like winning and or just putting on a very fun show, like what Jew was doing, I'm fine with the showboating and trash talking because it's fun. And he won the first round. Even when Santos got in a takedown, you still like showboating, like pretending he's bored and all that, and he got up relative. I think he got up with minimal resistance, and Santos really wasn't able to get off any significant moments when he got the takedown. No ground and pound, no submission attempts, no nothing like that. And so it was just, I thought you won striking. Santos clipped him a few times, but you was showing a pretty good chin. Then in the second round, it all just went downhill. Santos starts rushing in again. You is again swaying his head movement, and eventually Santos aims the left hook and it hits you square in the jaw and just crumbles him. And now he's seemingly showed off pretty good chin because he was still kind of at it and he was starting to try and get back up, but Santos was just on him, finished him off with ground and pound, and that was it. Fight was off. It's a shame because you was looking so entertaining, absolutely exciting to watch. The striking was on point for large portions of round one. And even when it got taken down, he fought it off very well. Didn't get a hit with any ground and pound. Didn't have to fight off any submissions. And overall, it was just looking like very entertaining. Like there were some concerns, obviously, like his, hands at the waist, chin down, just relying solely on head movement. It sucks because like when you think of these high level prospects that are coming in MMA or what looks like a prospect to watch, like him or Payne Talbot, and like the first time they lose, it's kind of crushing because you're thinking, man, they can go so far. Of course, there's always some hope. Juseng Yu, only 9-1, only 10 fights in his career, and he's like 31. He still possibly has some room to grow, and he is in his prime. So I don't know. Maybe he might be able to make, I wouldn't say quick turnaround, but like come back in like 4 or 5 months, something like that, and just get back on the horse and get better. Obviously, hopefully employ some better defensive movements and keeping your hands up better. But he's got the striking. He was looking so fast on the feet and so accurate. That jab is very potent, and like I said, it has a piston-like effect, just bop, bop, bop. And you saw Santos just constantly react when he got hit. So, but at the end of the day, man, it's shoot the box. They're gonna get hit, but you better be ready to take whatever fire they throw back at you because, shoot the box always brings the heat. Moving up on the card to our featured prelim, Abate Gutier runs through Tristan Vines like he was supposed to. It was not competitive in the slightest. And if I'm going to be brutal for a second, I think Tristan Vines just wanted a way out. You can see it. The moment that bell run, he didn't want nothing to do with Abate Gutier. He was just circling around that octagon like his life depended on it. And kind of was. I don't blame him for fighting tentative, and I don't blame him for just circling around, not trying to engage too much, because Abate Gutier is a monster. And it's crazy, like you hear him talk, he doesn't really think he hits that hard, or doesn't really think he's that good when he's really, really good. He's only 23. He's just going to get better. And he's already fights with such calmness and poise that I think the only sensible thing to think of is that he just goes up from here. I truly think he's just going to get better. And who knows, he might one day move to light heavyweight because he's huge for middleweight, man. He looks like a light heavyweight in there. But as of right now, he is the scariest prospect in the middleweight division. And certainly right now in the UFC, one of the best prospects to look out for. Him, Malcolm Melmaker, all those guys. Guys like those two, they are the prospects to watch right now because he's a monster. Now, when Vines finally went for something offensive, he went for a takedown that was about a football field away, and Gutier was able to just stuff the takedown, kind of grab his head and just knee him right in the face. And then Tristan Vines once again went for a takedown, got the clinch. And then as he kind of goes for the double leg, Gutier just lands 2 elbows, I think, to the side of the head, Travis Brown style. And then gets a tie plum and just pushes Tristan Vines off, lands 3 more shots, and that was it. Tristan Vines didn't want no more. Mark Goddard had to step in, and it looked like you could see it. Tristan Vines was looking like his neck was really hurt. He was touching it. I don't know, maybe him shoving him off just really hurt the neck or sprung something. Because if your neck just suddenly jolts like this without any preparation or something like this, it hurts. But really, if I'm being honest, I think he wanted a way out. He felt the power of Abate Gutier. He didn't want any of it. He wanted to save his brain, or as much of it as he could. And I don't blame him in the slightest. I mean, I'm no fighter. I don't do this professionally. And I know if Abate Gutier were to hit me, at least, I'd probably be dead. So I can understand why a professional fighter like Tristan Vines wants to save his MMA career, or at least avoid as much damage as possible so he can try and win his next fight. Because now he's technically in the UFC. And they'll definitely give him another fight, especially because he stepped in on short notice to try and save this on, a week's notice. So I think they'll give him another shot. As for who Abate Gutier gets, I'm not sure. I'm sure a lot of people will duck him. I'm not sure who will want to sign up to fight this monster, but you would hope that he would get a good step up in competition, because you think of his 3 wins so far: Jose Mendia, Robert Valentine, and now Tristan Vines. No longer in the UFC, or if he is, I couldn't explain to you why, but no wins in the UFC, no wins in the UFC debut, and no wins in the UFC. Everyone he's beaten so far has not won a single fight in the UFC, so absolutely, you would just hope that we get to see a good next step up in competition. Who that could be, I'm not too sure at the present moment, but I'm sure there's someone who can provide a good test for Gutier. I just realized, what if we give him Torres Finney? Just kill Torres Finney for that boring fight. Again, Robert Valentine, finally make him pay. Now that'd be something. Or Azamat Bakoyev if he wins his next fight in Vancouver. That'd be a great showing to see who is the best up-and-comer in this middleweight division. That'd be exciting for sure. So, though, Gutier, man, he is the mini Ngannou, and he is someone to watch out for. Now, we get to the main card. Let's open up our main card. Joe Pyfer submits Abus Magomedov via... Basically, it was a face crank. I know they're going to say rear naked choke, but it was a face crank. First round was not looking good at all for Pyfer. Once again, it was another fighter who I thought would mostly strike, just deciding to shoot for a takedown. I mean, good that these guys want to be well-rounded, but I'm kind of shocked they're using more of their B game than their A game. But either way, Pyfer goes for a takedown, and then Abus is able to reverse it and wind up on top. And at that point, he showed much better technical skills on the ground. He was able to get the back, landed some ground and pound, went from side control, went from mount. There was actually one moment where he was threatening with a Kimura, and then as he's going for it and trying to isolate the arm, he locks up Pyfer's head in a leg scissor choke. And it was looking kind of bad. It was looking like he might be able to get Pyfer, but eventually Pyfer's able to fight it off, eventually get back up, but he's not able to land anything of significance on the feet. And it's clear that Abus won the first round. Second round comes in, and like in all Abus fights, after the first round, he starts to fade, and once again, he faded again, and Pyfer is better at maintaining his stamina, definitely better than Abus is. While he does fade in fights, at least you notice that his fade isn't as dramatic as Abus is, because Abus in the first and in the second are so just different fighters. Either way, and Pyfer is a sniper with that right hand. Eventually, he's able to land 2 right hands back to back. I think one of them probably hit the side of the ear. Drops Abus, or at least hurts enough that he starts falling down. Then Pyfer starts going after him with ground and pound, cuts him above the eyes, or around the forehead, I would say. Eventually, he actually shows some pretty good jiu-jitsu, Pfeiffer in this case, when he was getting out grappled in the first round, went for the arm triangle. And he got it. It was pretty close in it, but I think it was either Abus was answering the telephone or doing it like this. Eventually, he's kind of able to worm out, but Pfeiffer eventually cinches up the back, and he goes for a rear naked choke, but the arm is over the chin and not under it. But Pfeiffer's so strong, man, that he probably has a really good squeeze, and eventually he's able to get the face crank, and Abus has no choice but to tap. Good win by Pfeiffer. It's a little worrisome that he went for the takedown and then got thoroughly out-grappled, but he made his adjustments. He was able to have more cardio in the end. And like I said, he's a sniper with that right hand of his. It was honestly pretty good to see him be well-rounded in this fight, and did show that while he can get out-grappled in some situations, he himself has some good grappling in his own right. Now, black belt in jiu-jitsu, I can't really take that at face value because there's so many MMA fighters who are quote-unquote black belts in jiu-jitsu. There's only very few that I would think are legit jiu-jitsu black belts. But still, Pfeiffer showing off a well-rounded game and actually showed some good technical standpoints on the ground, from securing the arm triangle, because he did a good job passing the legs and actually creating some separation so that the shoulder can continue pressing on. But still, I would say good one for Pfeiffer. Abus was ranked before when this fight got announced. He got booted out of the rankings just because, that happens sometimes. Even when you're not fighting, or you have a fight coming up and you're ranked, but you're only in the top 15, like 14, 15. So that can change at any moment before your fight hits. So, though, this might put Pfeiffer into the rankings, or they might give Pfeiffer a shot at the rankings. Who would they give him, though? Because, like I said, middleweight stack, like, literally the top 15 are 3 former title challengers in Cannonier, Costa, and Vittori. Now, I know 2 of those names might be washed, but still. Man, Joe Pfeiffer versus Paulo Costa be bomb. I mean, it would be so fun. Those 2 juggernauts just throwing bombs at each other with almost reckless abandonment. I definitely would love to see a fight between Paulo Costa and Pfeiffer. Hell, could you imagine the build-up for that fight? That'd be awesome. As for Abus, not sure who they give him. Maybe Kyle Dawkins if he beats GM3. I could see him getting an Abus. It wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. I mean, he did beat Michel Pereira, so who knows. Moving up on the card. Youssef Zalal submits Josh Emmett in the first round via armbar. Pure domination by Youssef Zalal. He fought a little bit on his bicycle like I thought he would throughout the entire fight, to be honest. Threw some kicks, and then when you could see Emmett try to throw his own strikes, Zalal immediately shoots for the takedown and starts methodically working from different positions. Eventually, he's tries to get mount and then go for a triangle. Emmett kind of reverses position, so you see Zalal fish for the arm. Eventually, he's able to wrap his leg over the face and start just creating leverage, squirming. And while Emmett's doing some right things, like gripping his arm to try and keep it from getting isolated and kind of squatting down to put pressure on Zalal while he's hanging on, eventually Zalal's just strong in his own right, got really good leverage, and he's eventually pulling Emmett, I think it was his right arm, and there was not a physical tap because his arm, or Emmett's arm, was still connected to the other one, so you could hear, they replayed it, he's saying tap, 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 he verbally tapped. Man, who the fuck does that to Josh Emmett? I know Topuria battered him for 5 rounds, but, Emmett was able to go the distance, still credit to him. He did get submitted by Yair in the second round, but to just be so thoroughly dominated where I don't even think he landed a single strike. Or if he did, maybe it was when Zalal was framing for the armbar, but I don't think that happened at all. Just crazy thing, Emmett wasn't able to throw a single strike. Youssef absolutely dominated and just picked him apart on the ground. And by that I mean was able to make his smart transitions and flow to any position he want, really. Just fantastic work by Zalal. I said he was exciting. I said it. You can if you watch the video, or sorry, watch the channel, you can look up my fight or my prediction on Emmett and Zalal. I had said that I thought Zalal was an exciting fighter, and that just because of one fight shouldn't change that much perspective on. Or at the very least, he shouldn't be judged just off one boring fight. And lo and behold, he gets an exciting finish. And with ease, too. Now, I know he's asking for, like, Lerone Murphy and whatnot. I don't think he gets it. I think Murphy should fight for the title. Well, I also think Evloev should fight for the title. Really, Evloev deserves it more. But I think it'll be Lerone Murphy fighting for the title or against Volkanovski, probably in December. But they could give Zalal Aljamain Sterling. That'd be great. That'd be a very good fight. These two can do everything, and I especially am very interested in seeing how the grappling would go with these two, because I said Zalal has something of an Aljamain style grappling, and it sure showed, but he so far is executing his submissions much better. Also, it seems in featherweight Sterling's more of a wrestler than he is a grappler. Still, though, I couldn't be happier for Zalal. He has improved so much, going from being booted out of the UFC because he was winless with 3 losses and a draw. Now, granted, like Ilya Topuria, a draw to Damon Blackshear and lost to Sean Woodson, those pretty good fighters, to now going on a overall 8-fight win streak. Went to Sparta, beat some no names, and then fights Billy Q, Jorno Aarons, Jack Shore, Calvin Kattar, and now Josh Emmett, and finished 4-5. And the only one that went to a decision clearly won. Just impressive by Zal, very impressive. I don't know where they give Emmett from here, but I think a fight with Jean Silva is exactly what should happen. I mean, come on, who wouldn't want to see Josh Emmett versus John Silva, those two trying to kill each other with bombs? That'd be a great fight. Great showing. Moving up on the card, he does it again. Jiri Prochazka defeats Khalil Rountree via 3rd round knockout. Slumped him bad. I don't know how he does it. It doesn't make sense. It shouldn't work. But by God, Jiri Prochazka, the living X Factor, does it again. He clearly was losing the first 2 rounds. Like, Rountree had better technique than him, better composure than him, better fundamentals than him. And what did Jiri do? He continued to fight like the madman he was. He got hit with so many bombs. I mean, Rountree's Muay Thai flurries were catching Prochazka on the chin. His leg kicks and body kicks were thudding. But Prochazka has one of the best chins I'd ever seen. Like, now it's been cracked before. Like, he's been KO'd not just by Politan, but like King Mo back in Ryzen. But by God, just think of all the punishment he's eaten from like Glover Teixeira, Rockage, Jamal Hill, Rountree, Dominic Reyes, and Volkan Oezdemir. These guys can put people's lights out. It's just so crazy to think Prochazka eats these. The only one to knock him out is Pereira, but Pereira just has the truest touch of death I've ever seen. We'll get to him soon. Just amazing work by Jiri Prochazka to survive the punishment. I'll say this. You can think of Khalil Rountree what you want, but that man is a warrior. Both in the Pereira fight and this fight, he looked so good in the first 2 rounds. And even when battered and bloodied, because he was fucked up in the 3rd round, he still fights with a warrior spirit and never gives up on himself. 3rd round might be round of the year, as Prochazka down 2 rounds, because Rountree was just so smart in letting Jiri attack and then let him do his odd movements and then come at him with his Muay Thai blitzes, or just pick him apart with his kicks. It was such a smart game plan by Rountree. He looked so much like the better fighter. But Jiri Prochazka, man, the chin, the spirit, the never say die attitude, and his killer instinct is some of the best in this division. Because Rountree, I said it before, he gasses in fights, and it might be just because of how compact he is and just constantly tensing up your muscles. But he started to fade in the 3rd, which sucks, because he's one of the best 1st and 2nd round fighters in the light heavyweight division. But Jiri smells blood in the water as he cuts Khalil with elbows, starts attacking the body relentlessly, grabbing the head, going for the clinch, inch 50-50, and just start throwing uppercuts, throwing knees to the body. And him occasionally throwing his patented jumping knees. None of them really lands clean. He even actually threw a spinning back elbow. He was trying to join the club of like Prates and Lopez of knocking out my opponent with spinning back elbow. But Rountree tough as nails. Then eventually in the third round, Jiri's able to land a jab, kind of a right hook, but then a left hook catches Rountree clean on the chin, slumps him, and he falls kind of like he did it, like how Jiri knocked out Dominic Reyes, just like a puppet with his strings cut off. Man, I guess it shows kind of where Rountree is. I do think he's one of the top 5 best light heavyweights in the world right now, and he's clearly competitive with championship level opponents. I mean, he beat a former champion. He was beating the now current champion until, well, he wasn't. And he put a former champion like Jiri Prochazka to the limits. Yeah, Khalil Rountree's one of the best light heavyweights. Now this is 2 of 3 fights where he took a lot of damage. So I do worry about how he'll come back from this. But if he's even in close to form like this, I think he can still beat a lot of light heavyweights. I really do. But man, Jiri Prochazka. He has only lost to Alex Pereira. He has beaten every other opponent they've given him. Two of those title challengers. Actually, I take it back. 3 of those title challengers. 2 of those former champion, or champion and a former champion. I mean, his light heavyweight run through the UFC is nothing short of spectacular. I mean, the only blemishes are the losses to Poatan, and you think, even him coming back after the shoulder injury and say, I don't know, fight Jamal Hill for the vacant belt or something like that. Or sorry, fought Hill when Hill was still champion and all this, and none of the bullshit of injury and belt hot potato happened. You think he'd still be champion? You think he'd be the running champion? I don't know if he beats Ankalaev, but still. He still beats fucking champion. Right now, he'd be champion. He is, right now, you could probably say Ankalaev, and I'm not inclined to disagree, but for my money, I think Jiri Prochazka is the second best light heavyweight on the planet. I think he is. Or for sure the more exciting. And he loses these fights, man. It looks like he's losing. Then he just pulls it out of the fire every single time. Absolutely insane. Now, where he goes from here, it's not sure, because I'll get more into it when I go to the Pereira fight, or when I talk about our main event, but I think him and Carlos Ulberg might fight for an interim title. That's what I think might happen, because, again, I'll get into it more, but let's just say that's what I'm thinking what's going to happen, and I'll dive into it better. As for Rountree, take some time off. He's going to need it. He took a lot of punishment. I do think he can still get wins. I'm just not sure where they give him. Maybe the winner of Rakij versus Mirzakhanov off at UFC 321 might be the next step. I think that's who they might give him. But we'll see. Maybe you can rematch Johnny Walker just to get a win. I don't know. Moving up, our co-main event. Merab Dvalishvili defeats Corey Sandhagen via unanimous decision. I think 2 of the scores were 48-45 and then a 49-45 or something like that. My God. Merab, I believe, is the bantamweight GOAT. I'd said it in my prediction that I wanted to leave my thoughts on Merab out there, that I think he's the greatest bantamweight of all time. And now with this. Now he ties Aljamain Sterling with the most consecutive title defenses at 3. Does it dominantly again, and just pulls off a Merab fight. What's crazier too is he seems to be getting better, which is terrifying for these bantamweights. Because second round was a 10-8. He hurt Corey Sandhagen like I'd never seen him get hurt before. Now, I've seen him get dropped when he fought Jan, but to see him nearly get finished by strikes against Merab, it's insane. Merab has somehow improved his power. This is just unfair now. Now fighters truly have to worry about his striking and possibly getting rocked by him, and not just worry about defending the takedowns. Oh, by the way, now also having to worry about the takedowns and the submission game of Dvalishvili. He's one of the best. He's truly one of the best. He is the best bantamweight in the world. Not just in the world, I take that back. In all of the UFC. Because, you have your champions. You got great bantamweights like TJ Dillashaw, Aljamain Sterling, and Dominic Cruz. And Petr Yan and all of them. But still. And most people would say, Dominic Cruz is the best bantamweight. You think of who he beat, like TJ Dillashaw, Uriah Faber, Demetrius Johnson, John Dotson, Joseph Benavidez. Those are great names for sure. I mean, but he didn't beat the Demetrius Johnson. Or at least I thought when Demetrius Johnson was at the peak of his powers. And I mean, look how many more champions Merab has been. How many more title challengers he's beaten. Just Merab is on another level, and he's just getting better. He's getting better. It is terrifying because I thought Sanhagen did it better than most of other Merab's opponents of not getting tired and actually defending takedowns as best he could. Like he truly does have a great gas tank because Sanhagen wasn't as tired as like Jan or Cejudo or O'Malley. At least I thought. But again, he got hurt worse than all of them besides O'Malley, who got finished. So take that what you will. And I personally scored the fight 1-4 for Sanhagen, then 2, 3, and 5 for Merab, with round 2 being a 10-8. But if you want to give Sanhagen Merab round 4, I wouldn't dispute it either. I knew Sanhagen would lose, and I did think he would at least win a round off of Merab, but man, I didn't think Merab would hurt him that way, and once again, just ragdolled him again. Once he goes for a single leg, turns the opponent around, switches to a double leg, you're just stuck on the fence. You're just stuck on the fence. You're not going to escape him, and nobody seems to escape him. And everyone just falls into the cardio trap. Every single one of these fighters just seem to try and out MMA him or outpoint him, and it is a hopeless endeavor. Just a hopeless endeavor. You're not going to beat Merab that way. Best chance a fighter has is to knock him out early. Else you're going to lose the decision. That's just what's going to happen because he's going to make you wilt. And he did it again. I don't even know who they give him. Like, the only fight that makes sense right now is the Petr Yan rematch, and I don't see that fight going any differently. What I do think should happen is either A, Merab moves up. Unfortunately, he doesn't want to. He respects Volkanovski and doesn't want to fight him. So, if Alexandre Pantoja were to, say, defeat Joshua Van in their fight, I think that's December at UFC 323, if I'm not mistaken, then Alexandre Pantoja versus Merab, the Cannibal versus the Machine, that is the best fight you can make at the lower weight classes. Because we've never seen... Alright, we did see TJ versus Cejudo, but this would be even better as... You could say Pantoja might be the flyweight GOAT, or one of them for sure. And Merab's the greatest bantamweight of all time. Have those two fight, that'd be awesome. That's the only other fight that would be exciting for Merab. Because I don't think the Jan rematch is going to go any differently. Mario Batista could get a title shot if he beats Umar at UFC 321. I don't think he does, but could have him. Then he'd be a new title challenger, but that's it. Then even if Umar wins, I still think he needs another shot or one more win off Merab. But I'm sure they would give him the rematch either way. So though, Merab's the fucking man once again. Now, our main event. Alex Poatan Pereira has recaptured the throne and defeats Magomed Ankalaev via first round TKO. It was about a minute and some change. That's how short this fight was. My God. It was just spectacular to see. I had said it. And, I don't know how many people watch the video now, but I do have a video on my channel where I talked about this fight between Pereira and Ankalaev. And I had said that I felt this was going to be a different Pereira. It was an angrier Pereira. And I thought he would go on and go pressure Ankalaev early. And that's exactly what he did. That's exactly what he needed to do to win. He pressured, went out the gate, started striking early with Ankalaev. And Ankalaev, he just sometimes makes bad decisions. And finally, he paid for it. Like I said, Ankalaev is a great fighter. He had only suffered one loss, and it was so close to not being a loss, like 10 seconds. Or sorry, those 10 seconds, man. But he has always made some bad decisions, like not wrestling Jan earlier or the knee to Walker. And eventually, play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And he eventually got caught for just making a bad decision or not making the right decision on time. And Pereira was so smart. He was throwing rear kicks to Ankalaev's lead leg while Ankalaev was in southpaw, and eventually he hits the knee like twice or three times. And you see Ankalaev immediately switch from southpaw to orthodox. And once you're a fellow orthodox fighter and you're not fighting in your natural stance, Pereira will eat you alive. He's got so many weapons for that. Eventually, he's able to dip down, land a devastating cross to Ankalaev early, and you saw it rattled his bell. And Ankalaev immediately panic wrestles. Pereira is able to stuff it, get on top, and start going with ground and pound. Now I know some people can say early stoppage. I can't agree with you. I can't. I just think obviously it was a fair stoppage. Like Herb Dean gave Ankalaev all the chances he could, but he didn't move. He started just shelling up like this while Pereira starts changing from hammer fist to the 12 to 6 elbows, some to the body, some to the head. And Ankalaev just didn't move. He didn't advance position. He didn't attempt to get up. All he was doing was more or less blocking shots, still getting hit, mind you, and just made no effort to get up. So, Pereira now, might be the easiest fight of Pereira's entire UFC career. Now, it's the shortest fight of his career, but the only other fight I've ever seen him make this easy was probably Sean Strickland, I would think. Like, make his reads, and then just pick him apart at range, and eventually just find the kill shot. And that's exactly what he did. Boy, this is crazy. Pereira fighting Ankalaev, and a chance to reclaim his belt, second belt he won, ain't easy. And him being able to do that, the way he did it, he is the fucking man. He's the fucking man. Understand something. When I got into this, like wanting to cover the sport and all this, I've only actually been watching MMA since September 2022, around UFC 279. I didn't get into MMA growing up, and only recently when I was roughly 18 or so. But when I love something, I want to try and learn about it the best I can. And so, I started watching past fights, and I just started really diving into the sports history. But the point I'm trying to make is, around this time, I got to watch live the build-up to UFC 281, seeing a kickboxer whose UFC debut was literally last year. And after just 3 fights, he defeats one of the greatest middleweight champions of all time in Israel Adesanya after beating him twice in kickboxing. So understand this when I am telling you that watching Pereira go from a 2-division kickboxing champion from Glory, like saying that that's his background, that's where he came from, and then his rise to the summit and became middleweight champion was extraordinary. And then you saw him lose and then retool himself, go up a weight class, and then make the division his playground. That's what he did. And then watching him fight Jiri Prochazka at MSG again and win a second belt. Seeing him headline UFC 300 and meme Jamal Hill. Seeing him on 2 weeks' notice save International Fight Week and fight Prochazka in the rematch. Then seeing him have one of the greatest fights at light heavyweight against Khalil Rountree. And then the sadness of seeing him lose UFC 313, just a shell of his former self, or not even a shell of his former self, I shouldn't say that. Just like seeing him fight uncharacteristically passive and not really hunt the finish like he's always known, to now this is one of the most special things I've ever seen. Just seeing him rise to superstardom and do something most fighters in their whole MMA career who've dedicated their lives to this aren't even close to. You think about this. Think about how many athletes have ever fought for a UFC title. Think about how many have won and how much of their life they dedicated to mixed martial arts. Pereira's only been in the UFC for 4 years. Only 4 years. Do you know how insane that is? Just all those years in kickboxing. He comes in MMA late. He's 38 now. And being able to do what he's doing, still reclaiming the belt, becoming a 2-time light heavyweight champion, it's just beautiful to watch. It's just so beautiful to just see a legend of the sport or a legend in the making in real time. Seeing like Ilya Topuria beat Volk, Holloway, Oliveira in real time is amazing. And now seeing Pereira do this in real time is nothing short of spectacular. And honestly, just nothing short of special. Because you never think the one dimensional kickboxer can beat all these now well rounded fighters or just get out wrestled quickly. And true, he had some matches that definitely benefited him, but by God, look at what the results have happened. He has now beaten 6 former or current champions. What a fucking fighter. He only has about 16 fights to his name. Like he was 12 and 3. Now this is now 13 and 3. So only 16 fights to his name. 6 of those being UFC champions. And the only other 2 he didn't fight that weren't champions, he destroyed them. And Andres Miguelinas and Bruno Silva. I apologize for that pause. I had to do some math in my head. But you get my point. While this is not a long resume, most fighters achieve this type of record and are already in the rankings. Or just starting to now get to the top 15 of their respective divisions, unless you're heavyweight, I guess. And Pereira is beating world champions and being on Summit. What else is there to say other than he is one of the best UFC fighters that we've ever seen? Now, I'm not going to say he's like top 5 on the GOAT list, but he certainly has reached top 10 in my eyes. You can disagree with me, and that's fair enough, but I think he's top 10 fighters. At the very least, I think he is the best combat sports athlete of all time. Now, you say it's Henry Cejudo. Fair enough. Gold medal in the Olympics is amazing, and it's an amazing accolade. But being the first and still only simultaneous 2-division champion in glory, being a 2-time UFC champion and the amount of fights he's had, and now being a 2-time light heavyweight champion, winning that belt back at 38 against your supposed kryptonite, and doing it, which is in easily what could be the easiest showing in your career, or the UFC career, I should say. Yeah, I think he's the best combat sports athlete of all time. I really do. I don't think most people could convince me it's somebody else. Like I said, Henry Cejudo has a great claim to it. Kayla Harrison has a great claim to it. But just in overall sports, combat sports, and what they have achieved, I think Pereira is on the mountaintop of that. Where does he go from here? I want him to fight at heavyweight. That's what I think. That's what I think the right next move is. Could you imagine how fun it is with him versus Tom Aspinall or him versus Cyril Gane, no matter who wins that fight at UFC 2 or 321? I know I would be excited. I know most people would be excited. Him at heavyweight and trying to be the first ever 3-division champion at UFC. Give him what he wants, because I know he wants to fight at heavyweight. Give him what he wants. I know there is possibly the Jiri trilogy. I wouldn't cry if I got that. It'd be an exciting fight. There's Carl Solberg, who I think is the rightful number 1 contender after knocking out Dominic Reyes, is on a 3-fight win streak, but not as an exciting of a matchup if you think about that. But Pereira versus Aspinall, I think would be so fun. Or him versus Gane would be so fun. As for Ankalaev, if we're all being fair, he probably should deserve a trilogy since they're 1-1, but I don't think he's getting it. Not after Pereira beat him the way he did, and considering how many fights he had to win just to actually get another title shot. Yeah, I don't. The UFC is not exactly looking forward to bringing this guy into the title picture immediately. But with that being said, that has been my post-fight thoughts on UFC 320. Again, an amazing card. Just seeing the story that's unfolded in front of me with this Pereira is just honestly such a treat to watch. I said it during my breakdown of Ankalaev and Pereira. I'm biased towards Pereira. I've always have been. He's one of my favorite fighters. And just seeing him win the way he has, nothing short of amazing for me. That being said, that has been my post-fight thoughts on this card. If you liked the video, comment and subscribe. I'd like to hear your thoughts. How would you score UFC 320? What was your favorite win on the whole card? What was your favorite finish on the whole card? And what do you think will happen next for the athletes who have won? With that being said, I've been Bo from Brutal Commentary. Thank y'all for listening. Chama.